The wine glass shattered against the hardwood floor with a crack so sharp it cut through the laughter and chatter of 23 Thanksgiving guests like a knife. In the sudden silence that followed, my daughter-in-law's voice rang out clear and cold. "Margaret, this table is for family. You can sit in the kitchen." I stood there, frozen, the empty turkey platter still in my hands. 23 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Some looked away quickly. Others stared, waiting to see what I would do. My son Stephen sat at the head of the table, his face flushed, his mouth opening and closing like he wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. Cassandra, my daughter-in-law, smiled at me. It was the same smile she'd given me for 4 years now. Sweet on the surface, venomous underneath. "Well," she said, gesturing toward the kitchen door, "we're about to say grace. Family only." I looked at my son. "Say something," I thought. "Tell her I'm your mother. Tell her this is my house. Tell her I spent 3 days preparing this meal." But Stephen just looked down at his plate. I set the platter down carefully, walked to the kitchen, and closed the door behind me. Through the wood, I heard Cassandra's laugh, light and tinkling, followed by her saying, "Sorry about that, everyone. She gets confused sometimes. You know how it is with older people." I was 58 years old. My mind was sharp as ever. But I sat down on the kitchen stool and stared at the pumpkin pies I'd made from scratch, and I realized something. This wasn't confusion. This was 4 years of small cruelties finally reaching their breaking point. Let me back up. 4 years ago, Stephen called me with news. He was getting married. I was thrilled. My son, my only child, the boy I'd raised alone after his father died when he was 10, was starting his own family. I couldn't wait to meet her. Cassandra was beautiful, blonde, polished, always perfectly dressed. She worked in marketing for a tech startup and drove a BMW her parents had bought her. When Stephen brought her to my small house in suburban Cleveland for the first time, I saw her nose wrinkle slightly as she looked around. But she smiled and hugged me and called me Mom right away. "Stephen talks about you all the time," she said. "He says you're the strongest woman he knows." I'd liked her. I really had. The wedding was small. They couldn't afford much, they said. Stephen's engineering job paid well, but Cassandra had student loans, and they were saving for a house. I understood. I'd offered to help pay for the wedding, but Cassandra had declined graciously. "That's so sweet, Mom, but we want to do this ourselves." 3 months after the wedding, they showed up at my door with suitcases. Cassandra's company had downsized. She'd been laid off. They couldn't afford their apartment anymore. Could they stay with me? Just for a few months, while they got back on their feet? Of course I said yes. My house had 3 bedrooms. I was retired from nursing, living on my pension and some savings. I had space. I had time. I could help my son. That was 4 years ago. In those 4 years, Cassandra never found another job. She was always looking, always networking, always just about to get an offer. Meanwhile, Stephen worked longer and longer hours, taking on extra projects, overtime, anything to bring in more money, and Cassandra stayed home, in my house, acting like she owned it. At first, it was small things. She rearranged my kitchen without asking. She threw out my old coffee maker and bought a fancy espresso machine. "You'll love it, Mom. It's so much better." When I said I preferred my old one, she laughed. "Oh, Mom, you're so stuck in your ways." Then she started redecorating. My living room curtains came down. "These are so dated, Mom. I got you new ones. Much more modern. My family photos on the mantel disappeared. The frames were tacky. I'll help you find better ones." They never went back up. I tried to talk to Stephen. "Honey, I appreciate that Cassandra wants to help, but this is my home. I like things the way they are." He looked exhausted. "Mom, please. She's just trying to make it nice. She feels bad that we're living here. Let her do this. It makes her feel better." So I let it go. I told myself it was temporary. They'd leave soon. I could change things back. But they didn't leave. And Cassandra's changes got bigger. She invited her friends over without asking me. They'd take over my living room, drinking wine, laughing loudly until midnight while I lay awake in my bedroom. When I asked her to keep it down, she said, "Mom, you can't expect us to never have friends over. We live here too." She started making rules. No shoes in the house, no TV after 9 p.m., because she needed quiet. No certain foods because she was trying different diets. The house had to be spotless at all times because you never know when someone might stop by. I was a guest in my own home. Stephen saw none of this. He left for work at 7 in the morning and came home at 8 at night. Cassandra was always sweet to him. She'd have dinner ready, the house perfect, herself dressed nicely. She'd kiss him and ask about his day and tell him how hard she'd been working on job applications. He thought everything was fine. My friends started to notice. My neighbor, Patricia, asked me over coffee one morning, "Margaret, are you okay? I never see you anymore." I realized I'd been staying in my bedroom more and more. It was the only space that still felt like mine. "I'm fine," I told her. But I wasn't. The worst part was holidays. Cassandra took over completely. She planned everything, cooked everything, invited who she wanted. This Thanksgiving, she'd invited her parents, her sister's family, some friends from her old job, and even Stephen's colleagues. I'd offered to help cook. "Oh, Mom, that's sweet, but I've got it handled. You just relax." Except I hadn't relaxed. I'd spent 3 days preparing side dishes, making pies, setting the table. Cassandra had barely acknowledged it. When her mother arrived and complimented the food, Cassandra said, "Thanks, I've been cooking for days." And now, here I was, sitting in the kitchen, in my own house, on Thanksgiving, because I wasn't family. I heard footsteps. The kitchen door opened. Patricia, my neighbor, stepped in. She'd been one of the guests at the table. "Margaret," she said quietly, closing the door behind her. "This isn't right." "It's fine," I said automatically. "It's not fine." She sat down next to me. "I've watched this for 4 years. I've kept my mouth shut because it's not my business. But that out there, that was cruel." I felt tears prick my eyes. I blinked them back. "Stephen's happy. That's what matters." "Is he?" Patricia asked. "He looked miserable out there." "He didn't say anything. Neither did you." She was right. I hadn't. For 4 years, I'd swallowed every comment, every insult, every small humiliation, because I didn't want to make waves. I didn't want Stephen to have to choose between his wife and his mother. I was terrified he'd choose her. Patricia put her hand on mine. "Why do you let her treat you like this?" I'd asked myself that question 1,000 times. The truth was complicated. I'd spent 30 years as a nurse, caring for other people, putting their needs first. When Stephen's father died, I'd poured everything into raising him. My whole life had been about taking care of others. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to demand respect. I thought if I just kept being kind, being understanding, being accommodating, eventually Cassandra would see me as an ally instead of an obstacle. I was wrong. "I don't know," I told Patricia. "I keep thinking it'll get better. It won't. Not unless you do something." Before I could respond, the kitchen door opened again. It was Stephen's colleague, a young man named David. He looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Carter, I just wanted to say that was really inappropriate. I'm sorry that happened." "Thank you," I said quietly. He hesitated. "For what it's worth, the turkey was amazing. Best I've ever had. Cassandra said you made it." "She did?" I was surprised. "Yeah. She was telling us how you've been cooking all week. She said you insisted on doing most of it." He paused. "That's why it seemed weird when she... Anyway, just wanted you to know the food was great." After he left, Patricia looked at me. "Margaret, what are you going to do?" I didn't know. But something in me had shifted. Maybe it was Patricia's words. Maybe it was David's kindness. Maybe it was just 4 years of swallowing my pride finally coming to a head. But I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Anger. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold, calculating kind. The kind that makes you think clearly. "I'm going to finish the dishes," I said. "Then I'm going to serve dessert." Patricia frowned. "That's it?" "For now." I stood up, smoothed my skirt, and walked back out to the dining room with the pumpkin pies. Everyone stopped talking. Cassandra looked at me, surprised. "I thought you were tired, Mom," she said, her voice dripping with false concern. "I'm fine," I said calmly. I set the pies down and began cutting slices. As I served them, I caught Stephen's eye. He looked guilty. Good. For the rest of the evening, I played the perfect hostess. I smiled. I chatted with guests. I cleaned up, all while my mind worked. I'd spent 4 years being passive. That ended tonight. After the last guest left, Stephen and Cassandra went to their room. I sat in my bedroom and made a list. I'd spent my career as a nurse, observing people, noticing details. I'd been watching Cassandra for 4 years, and now I thought back on all the little things that hadn't quite added up. She never had interviews, but she was gone several afternoons a week. Networking lunches, she called them. She got a lot of phone calls that she took in private, walking outside or into the bathroom. She'd recently started dressing up more, wearing expensive clothes and jewelry I didn't remember seeing before. When I asked, she said they were from her parents. But I'd met her parents. They were school teachers, not wealthy. Stephen had mentioned Cassandra wanted to buy a house soon. They'd been saving aggressively. But Stephen's paychecks were direct deposited to a joint account. If they were saving so much, why did he still look so stressed about money? The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. While Cassandra was in the shower and Stephen was at work, I went into their room. I felt guilty. This wasn't like me. But I kept thinking about Thanksgiving, about sitting in the kitchen, about 4 years of my life. I kept going. Her laptop was on the dresser. It was open, in sleep mode. I touched the trackpad. It woke up, no password. She was either careless or arrogant, maybe both. Her email was open. I scanned the recent messages. Most were spam, advertisements, some from friends. Then I saw one with the subject line, Tuesday at the Hilton. I clicked it. It was from someone named Richard Pearson. The email was brief. Can't wait to see you Tuesday. Room 412, same as usual. Wear the red dress I like. Her response, counting down the hours. This secret is killing me, but Stephen's so busy at work he doesn't notice anything. Soon we won't have to hide. I felt like I'd been punched. My daughter-in-law was having an affair. I kept reading. I found more emails. Richard Pearson was her old boss from the tech startup. They'd been seeing each other for over a year. The emails were explicit, romantic, and worst of all, calculated. In one email she wrote, Stephen's mother's house will be worth at least $400,000 when she passes. Stephen's her only heir. Once we're in a better financial position, we can make our move. I'm working on getting her to sign some paperwork that would make things easier. In another, the lawyer said if we can prove she's declining mentally, we can get power of attorney. I've been documenting her forgetful moments. It's not hard to make someone look confused. My hands shook. This wasn't just an affair. This was a plan. Cassandra was going to manipulate me, possibly have me declared incompetent, take control of my finances and my house, and then what? Put me in a home? Strip away everything I had? And Stephen, my son, she was using him. The emails made that clear. She didn't love him. She loved his potential inheritance. She loved that he worked so hard he never saw what was happening at home. She loved that he trusted her completely. I heard the shower turn off. I quickly took photos of the emails with my phone, closed the laptop, and slipped out of the room. My heart was racing. I went to the kitchen and made coffee with shaking hands. Cassandra came out, bright and cheerful. Morning, Mom. Wasn't yesterday wonderful? I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman had been living in my home for 4 years, eating my food, sleeping under my roof, all while plotting to destroy me and use my son. And she stood there smiling like we were friends. It was interesting, I said carefully. She didn't notice my tone. She poured herself coffee from the expensive espresso machine and started talking about her plans for Christmas. I'm thinking we should do it at a restaurant this year. Hosting is so much work. Whatever you think is best, I said. She smiled. I'm glad you're being reasonable, Mom. I know change is hard for you. After she left the kitchen, I sat down and opened my phone. I looked at the photos I'd taken. Evidence. Clear, damning evidence. But evidence of what, exactly? An affair wasn't illegal. Her plans for my house were just talk. Nothing had actually happened yet. I needed more. I needed to know exactly what she was planning, how far she'd go, and I needed proof that would make Stephen believe me. Because if I showed him these emails alone, she'd spin some story. She'd cry, she'd apologize, she'd blame me for invading her privacy, she'd make me look like the villain. I called Patricia. Can you come over this afternoon? I need your help with something." When she arrived, I showed her everything. Her face went pale. "Margaret, you need to tell Stephen right now." "I will. But not yet. I need to know the whole plan." She mentioned paperwork, a lawyer. "I need to know what she's already done." "How are you going to find out?" I thought about it. I need to make her think she's winning. I need her to feel comfortable enough to make her move. Over the next week, I became the perfect victim. I started acting a little forgetful. I'd ask Cassandra the same question twice. I'd misplace things and ask if she'd seen them. I left cabinet doors open, forgot to turn off the stove. Small things. Things that could be explained by age or stress, but that added up to a pattern. Cassandra noticed immediately. I saw her eyes light up. She started documenting it, just like she'd said in her emails. She'd make comments in front of Stephen. "Mom, you asked me that already. Are you feeling okay?" Stephen would look concerned. "Mom, maybe you should see a doctor." "I'm fine," I'd say, "just tired." Meanwhile, I installed a small recording app on my phone. I kept it running whenever Cassandra and I were alone. I was looking for the moment she'd reveal her real plan. It came 2 weeks later. Stephen was working late. Cassandra and I were in the living room. I pretended to doze off in my chair. I heard her get up, heard her making a phone call. "Richard, it's me." "No, she's asleep. Listen, I think we're getting close. She's been really out of it lately. I talked to that lawyer you recommended. He said if we can get 2 doctors to evaluate her and agree she's not competent, we can move forward with the guardianship process." Pause. "I know, it's risky, but Stephen trusts me completely. He's already worried about her. Once we have guardianship, we can make decisions for her. Sell the house, put her somewhere, whatever we need to do. The house alone is worth almost $500,000. Another pause. "Of course I love you. This is for us. Once the divorce is final and we get the settlement, we can start our real life together." I kept my eyes closed, kept my breathing even, while my heart hammered in my chest. She was planning to have me declared incompetent. She was planning to divorce Stephen and take half of everything, including what she could steal from me. And she thought she'd already won. That night, after Cassandra went to bed, I made copies of everything. The emails, the recordings, all of it. I put one set in my safety deposit box at the bank, another set with Patricia. I kept the originals. Then I called a lawyer of my own. I explained the situation. He was horrified. "Mrs. Carter, this is elder abuse, financial exploitation. You need to act now." "I will. But I need to do it right. I need Stephen to see the truth. If I don't handle this perfectly, she'll twist it and I'll lose my son." The lawyer helped me prepare. We had everything documented, notarized, legal. Then I made my plan for how to reveal it. Christmas was in 3 weeks. Cassandra had already invited people to dinner at a nice restaurant. Somewhere fancy, where we don't have to worry about cleanup. She'd charged the deposit to Stephen's credit card. I called her aside. "Cassandra, about Christmas. I've been thinking." She smiled indulgently. "Yes, Mom, I'd like to have it here. At home. One more time. For old time's sake." She frowned. "Mom, we already made reservations." "I know. But this is important to me. Please. It might be my last Christmas in this house." Her eyes sharpened. "What do you mean?" "I've been thinking about what you and Stephen said. About me seeing a doctor. About maybe needing more help. You might be right. I might need to move somewhere, with more support." I could practically see the dollar signs in her eyes. "Oh, Mom, that's very mature of you. I'm proud of you for recognizing that. So we can have Christmas here? I'll do all the cooking. I want to do it one last time." She pretended to think about it. "Okay, Mom, if it means that much to you, we'll have it here." Over the next 3 weeks, I prepared. Not just the meal, everything. I invited all the same people who'd been at Thanksgiving. I told Patricia my plan. She looked worried but agreed to help. I also told Stephen I needed to talk to him about something important after Christmas. It's about the house, about my plans for the future. He looked relieved. "Mom, I'm glad you're thinking about this. Cassandra and I have been so worried." "I'm sure you have," I thought. Christmas Day arrived. I'd cooked for 2 days straight, ham, turkey, all the sides, 3 different desserts. The house looked beautiful. I decorated it myself, the way I liked it, with my old ornaments and my family photos back on the mantel. Guests started arriving around 3, the same people from Thanksgiving, plus a few more. Patricia was there early, helping me set up. I'd also invited Stephen's colleague David, who'd been kind to me. And I'd invited 2 other people, my lawyer and a woman named Sandra, who was a social worker I'd met through my nursing work. Cassandra was in her element, playing hostess, greeting everyone, accepting compliments on the decorations and food. She didn't even bother to correct people when they assumed she'd done it all. I just smiled and let her have her moment. Dinner was lovely. Everyone ate, talked, laughed. Cassandra sat at the head of the table, exactly where she'd sat at Thanksgiving. I sat at the other end, in the kitchen doorway, just like before. After dinner, as people were finishing dessert, I stood up. I tapped my glass to get everyone's attention. I want to thank you all for coming today. It means so much to me to have family and friends together in my home. Cassandra smiled. Oh, Mom, you're so sweet. I especially want to thank my daughter-in-law, Cassandra. She's been living here for 4 years now, and she's made such an impact on my life. Stephen beamed. Cassandra looked pleased. In fact, I continued, Cassandra has been so concerned about my well-being. She's noticed I've been forgetful lately. She's suggested I might need to see doctors, maybe consider moving somewhere with more support. I looked right at her. She's even been researching legal options to help me make those decisions. Cassandra's smile faltered slightly. Mom, we just want what's best for you. I know, and I appreciate that. Which is why I've been making some decisions of my own. I pulled out an envelope from my pocket. This is the deed to my house. As of yesterday, it's been transferred to a trust. I've named Patricia here as the trustee. She'll manage it according to my wishes, and when I pass, it will go to my son Stephen. But it can never be sold without my explicit written consent, and no one can claim it on the basis of power of attorney or guardianship. The room went silent. Cassandra's face went white. Why would you do that? She asked, her voice tight. Because I want to make sure my home is protected. I also want to make sure my son is protected. I pulled out my phone. Which brings me to something else I need to share. I played the recording. Cassandra's voice filled the room, talking to Richard about the guardianship plan, about selling the house, about the divorce and settlement. The silence that followed was deafening. Stephen's face went from confused to shocked to devastated in the space of seconds. Cassandra stood up, her chair scraping loudly. That's fake. She recorded me without permission. That's illegal. Actually, my lawyer spoke up from his seat. In Ohio, it's legal to record a conversation if one party consents. Mrs. Carter was part of that conversation. And as for the content being fake, we have emails as well. Would you like me to read them? Cassandra's face crumpled. Then, just as quickly, it hardened. This is ridiculous. Stephen, your mother is clearly losing it. She's paranoid. This is exactly why we need to get her help. Stephen stood up slowly. He looked at her like he'd never seen her before. Is it true? Have you been having an affair? No. I mean, yes, I know Richard. He's an old colleague, but for over a year, according to the emails, the lawyer said calmly, meeting at hotels, making plans for a future together after divorcing Mr. Carter here. Stephen turned to me. Mom, how long have you known? Since Thanksgiving. When you let her tell me I wasn't family in my own house and didn't say a word. He flinched like I'd hit him. I'm sorry. God, Mom, I'm so sorry. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I needed you to see it. Not hear it from me, not have her twist it. I needed you to see exactly who she is. Cassandra was crying now. Real tears, maybe. Or maybe not. Stephen, please. This is all a misunderstanding. Your mother has been acting crazy. I was scared. Richard is just a friend. I was talking to him about options because I didn't know what else to do. Were you planning to divorce me? Stephen asked quietly. She hesitated. That was answer enough. Get out, he said. Get out of my mother's house. Now. Stephen. Now. We'll figure out the rest later. But you need to leave. Right now. Cassandra looked around the room. Everyone was staring at her. No one looked sympathetic. She grabbed her purse and her coat and left, slamming the door behind her. The room erupted in murmurs. Stephen slumped into his chair, his head in his hands. I went to him and put my hand on his shoulder. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said, his voice cracking. "I'm so sorry. I should have seen it. I should have protected you. You were working so hard. You trusted her. That's not a fault. I let her treat you like garbage. At Thanksgiving, when she told you to sit in the kitchen, I just sat there. What kind of son does that? The kind who was tired and confused and trying to keep the peace. I don't blame you for that. I blame her." David, Stephen's colleague, spoke up. "For what it's worth, man, none of us knew. She seemed nice. It's not your fault you trusted your wife." Patricia added, "Margaret handled this brilliantly. She got the proof. She protected herself. And now you both know the truth." Stephen looked up at me. "What happens now? Now you file for divorce. You protect your assets. You heal. And you rebuild your life. Can I stay here? I know I don't deserve to. Of course you can stay. This is your home. It always was. It always will be." Over the next few months, the truth came out in pieces. Cassandra and Richard had been planning their scheme for 18 months. They'd met when she was still employed and rekindled things after she was laid off. She'd been staying with me specifically to save money and position herself to eventually claim the house. The networking lunches were hotel meets with Richard. The expensive clothes were gifts from him. Stephen's divorce was messy but quick. Cassandra tried to claim she was entitled to half of everything, including potential future inheritance, but my lawyer had documented everything. The emails about the affair, the plans for exploitation, the recordings. In the end, she got nothing but her car and her personal belongings. Richard, it turned out, was also married. His wife divorced him too. Last I heard, Cassandra moved to another state. I don't think about her much anymore. Stephen stayed with me for another year while he healed and saved up. We talked a lot during that time. About his father, about how I'd raised him, about how he'd missed the signs with Cassandra because he'd been working so hard to be a good provider, just like his father had been. "Dad worked himself to death," he said one night. "I thought that's what men did. Work hard, provide, sacrifice. I didn't see that I was sacrificing you in the process. You were trying your best. We both were. We both made mistakes." "You didn't make mistakes, Mom. You survived." Eventually, Stephen met someone new. A kind woman named Lisa who works as a teacher. She came to dinner and complimented my cooking and asked if she could have my recipes. She noticed the family photos on the mantel and asked me to tell her stories about Stephen as a kid. She didn't try to change anything in my house. She just appreciated what was already there. They got married last spring. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. They bought their own house, 20 minutes away. Stephen calls me every Sunday. They come to dinner every other week. And when holidays come around, Lisa always asks, "What can I bring, Margaret? What can I do to help?" I let her help. And when she does, I thank her. Patricia asks me sometimes if I regret how I handled things, if I wish I'd confronted Cassandra sooner, made a scene, thrown her out years ago. I tell her no, because doing it the way I did taught me something important. I'd spent my whole life being accommodating, being kind, putting others first, and that's not a bad thing. Kindness isn't weakness. Patience isn't passivity. But there's a difference between being kind and being a doormat. There's a difference between keeping the peace and sacrificing your dignity. I learned that I can be patient and strategic. I can be kind and still demand respect. I can love my son without accepting being treated as less than family in my own home. On Thanksgiving this year, Lisa and Stephen are hosting at their house. They invited me, of course. Lisa called and asked what she could cook that I'd like. Stephen got on the phone and said, "Mom, you've cooked enough Thanksgivings. Let us take care of you for once. I'm going. I'm bringing pies because I want to, not because anyone expects me to. And when we sit down to dinner, I'll be at the table, not in the kitchen, not as an afterthought, as family, because that's what I am. That's what I always was. It just took me 4 years, one Thanksgiving humiliation, and a lot of courage to remember it. And you know what? I sleep better now. In my own house, in my own bed, surrounded by my own things, exactly the way I like them. No one tells me how to arrange my kitchen. No one throws out my belongings. No one makes me feel like a guest in the home I worked 30 years to buy. I'm free, not because Cassandra left, though that helped, but because I finally stood up for myself. I finally said enough. I finally remembered that respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you command by knowing your own worth. And I'm worth more than a seat in the kitchen. I'm worth the whole damn table.